Hello everybody, it's Rhonda here from Nelson Soapery. Today let's do a video all about how we actually test the candles. I know we've gone through, how you actually make them and putting the wicks in and all of those things. But in front of me here, I do have a candle that I've made just for testing. So this is only a testing one. I don't actually use black candles anymore or black jars. But in here you can see I have my wicks that have been placed in here. So now I'm going to show you how I actually decided on these wicks and now how we actually test it and what you do. A bit of a disclaimer, this is just how I do mine. It doesn't mean it's the exact way to do it. You can do testing in many different ways, but this is how I do mine and find out exactly, what I'm up to. So let's get going and we will light this candle and start the process. Now, before we start the process, there's a few things that I thought we'll talk about. So obviously, like I said, this is my test candle and you can see this is a double wick. Now, to choose the wicks, what you need to do is simply get a ruler and we're just going to put the ruler, and this needs to be on the inside of the jar to the inside of this jar because we want to basically see, how wide across it is, because if you go to many websites, they will actually say the burn, they will give you an idea that the burning will be 7.5 centimeters for instance, or 8 or 9 or 4, and then you need to measure your candles. So if I measure my candle on here, which I've done, this one says this one here is roughly about 8 to 8.5 across, and we're talking centimeters in this. And of course, wherever you are, choose whichever way you want, because I know in America a lot of the sites probably might go off inches, but in Australia we're going to use centimeters. But this is a large jar, like I said, so it's roughly 8.5 on the inner. And if we go in, we'll talk about inches. So the inches would be like 3.5 inch roughly. So now what I've done through a couple different testing that I've done, I actually found these particular wicks and I found that these were good. They are called ACS's cotton braids, and this is the 7.5. Now, one 7.5 will not burn right across here, but in my testing, I actually did this particular one here, which is only a 7, and this did burn it, but not right to the edge. So I've gone up one size for the testing of this one, and then I've popped 2 as well. And I did show in one of my other videos something that I did see from Stanley Handcraft, and what he actually did was just cut some bits of paper and just, place them to see if that wick size was going to be right, and then of course you've got to test to see if that works. So for these ones, like I said, this is the one I'm using, and for my candle ones, this particular, which is a number 7, this worked perfectly in the tin with just one, and that was a 120 gram tin. But in this one here, like I said, I'm going for the 7.5, and there's 2 of those. So what we're going to do is literally we are just going to light it. This has been sitting here curing for a couple days. So now I'm just going to simply light it. I mean, this is basically all you need to do in testing. So testing, like I said, number 1, you're going to just measure your candle first and then choose the wick that you think is going to sit. Right, now there's a couple things when we light it. So number 1, we want to see that these flames are not massively too high. If they are, you need to go down a wick. If they're small and they're just struggling to stay alight, then that means, you might have to go up or down. So that's what I'm saying. You need to kind of test that. And what we're going to do, as I said, we've already lit this. So I'm now going to set this aside. I'm going to see how this one goes. We'll see if it gets the melt pool right across, and then of course, we want to see that beautiful melt pool to the end, and we want to see that, like I said, the flame is not too hot. At the moment, this flame's not super big. It looks quite good. It's not too big, not too small, but we've only just lit it. So the proof is honestly in a couple hours. So what we want to do is leave this for about 2 hours and see how we go. So every half half an hour, I'll have a look and see how big it is. So at the moment, like I said, we've only just lit it. So I'm going to let this go. I'll bring you back in half an hour and we will see. I'll set a timer. And we'll see how far across this candle this one has gone. So this is basically how you do it. And remember, every fragrance you use and every wax will be different. So you do need to test every single one. So this is one of my new ones that is going to be released. So I won't talk about the name because I haven't released this one yet. But of course, before you release anything, you need to do a lot of testing. And another thing that's very important is using a jar that, you know, I suggest going through a proper supplier, a supplier that, you know, that has tested these jars. So these are, you know, candle jars. These are not ones I've just picked up off any store. They are from a candle supplier. So you can tell they're quite thick, and most candle jars from suppliers will be a lot thicker so they can handle the heat and you'll be able to pick them up. But of course, you know, you've got to use your own skills to, you know, determine whether the jar is too hot and so on. But every jar I've got has never been too hot that I can't pick it up. But that, like I said, that has to do with the wick. And if, you know, the wick's wrong, the jar will be too hot. It can crack if they're massive, so you really do need to check. So like I said, you can see this is burning quite well. We're just going to set this aside and I'm going to bring you back in half an hour. So let's just pop this aside and we'll see how it goes. So everyone, I forgot to come back in 30 minutes, but here you go. So this has been almost an hour and I thought I would actually show you. So you can see it hasn't quite reached the edge yet, but give it another half an hour and it should have reached the edge. I mean, you don't want it to reach the edge, honestly, within 20 minutes, because if it does, that means that the wicks are just a little bit too hot. And you can see here that they're pretty good. They're not too high. They're not dancing too much. They're dancing a little bit. And when people say dancing, that actually means the wick's like moving a lot and the flame's super duper high. But if I can go back here, you can see it's not that high. It's maybe, I'm going to say, a centimeter, maybe just a little bit more than a centimeter. So it's pretty good. So like I said, I'm going to see how these go. And the candle jar is not hot at all. It is warm, but it's definitely not hot. I could definitely pick this up. But I do advise all of my customers never to pick it up when it's got, you know, this liquid wax in it, because if they slip, then of course they'll tip it out and burn themselves. So anyway, like I said, we are just going to let this go just for a bit longer to see if we reach the edge. But I'm super happy with how it's reached the outside so far. And like I said, we just need a little bit more heat in it to see if it reaches the edges of the top and the bottom, because it has just reached the outside. So here we are, everyone, almost at the end of our testing. So as you can see, if I get nice and close, you can see that it's reached a full melt pool. And what that means is that it's all liquefied right to the edges, which means whoever buys this is going to get a beautiful candle that burns right to the outside. So this is about 1 hour and 40 minutes, roughly, or 1 hour 45. And it has got to the edge in around that time. So I'm happy with that. If it's like, if it gets to the edge, you know, on a big candle, sort of under 40 minutes, I'd say the wicks are too big. But this one is quite fine. And you can see that they're not, the wicks aren't massive either, you know, like the flame, I mean, isn't massive. It's quite nice. And, you know, look, if it's super duper bad, you will see like sooting around the outside, which means all the black bits around the outside. And you can see nothing like that on here, which is really, really nice. And it smells just beautiful. So I'm really happy with this testing. So for this new fragrance that will be coming out soon, this one is all done. So I will write all of this in my book, and that's basically how you do testing, everyone. If you know, a couple hours went by and there was absolutely, you know, heaps of wax on the outside and it didn't go to the outside, I would know that's not right, and I would know to you know, go up a wick. But the same thing if, you know, the melt pool, if it started melting too much on the outside and the flame was big, then I'd know, okay, that's wrong, maybe we've got to go down a wick and test how that goes. So as I said, for now I'm really happy with this. It smells gorgeous, the flame is good, the wax pull is good, the scent throw is amazing. So we are done for today. So I hope that's taught you a little bit about how to actually test some candles, but of course I always say please do your own due diligence, which means, you know, look and research everything. I am a professional candle and soap maker, but of course I don't know everything. I learn things all the time, as I'm sure all business owners do. But anyway, I will see you on the next video. Bye my friends.